Hi guys, welcome to Westminster Uncensored. I'm Michael Heaver.
I'm Patrick Christie.
And so much to talk about on today's show. We've got Customs Union, we've got Donald Trump bringing peace to the Korean Peninsula. Wow. But we start with new crime figures, Patrick. Very start. Guys, as ever, just remind you, we want you to dive in, tell us what you think, get involved. Oh, and by the way, ABBA. We've just heard hot off the press.
Yes.
ABBA bringing out some new music. Patrick, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel absolutely amazing. I said whenever I get off at Waterloo, I have to sing the song, so I'm pretty much bang up for this. I didn't realise how much I liked ABBA until they announced they were reforming. So fantastic.
There you go.
But as ever here at Westminster, guys, we like to give you an eclectic mix of news stories, both domestically and internationally, and today is no different. But there's nowhere else we can start other than these shocking new crime figures that have been revealed in the last couple of days about the increase in violent crime in England and Wales. So robbery across England and Wales is up 33% year on year to 74,130 a year. Knife crime up 22% and an 11% increase in firearms offences. We're coming on to this a bit later, but specifically focusing on London, which has seen a massive, taken the brunt of the violent crime epidemic, really. 44% year on year increase in homicides as well. So a lot to come on to there. But just firstly, we obviously posted this online a bit earlier. We've got some of your comments. Please keep flying in with your comments. Stephen Hughes just says, I believe certain crimes should mean tougher sentences. Gillian Dunahee saying long overdue, build more prisons. And Steve Spratling saying prisons must be a deterrent, not an invitation. You're absolutely spot on.
I mean, there's no way around it really, is there, guys? You look at these statistics that we've got here, as Patrick said. Robbery up 33%, 22% increase in knife crime, gun crime up 11%. These are the national year-on-year figures. To my mind, guys, it's a legacy of weak sentences, soft prisons, cut to police. We've talked about it a lot here on Westminster, as you probably know, about the breakdown of law and order. And the fact is, if you have this combination of this soft approach, cuts to police and all the rest of it, you're seeing the legacy here today. Violent crime is through the roof. And by the way, you've probably heard about the violence in London. Patrick, the statistics for London are absolutely atrocious. This is released by the Met.
Well, let's delve into these now. We've had a comment earlier, just now actually, just saying, are these official statistics or are you making them up? No, they are official statistics. We'd literally be sued if they weren't. Homicides went up from 109 to 157, and knife crimes up 21%. Rapes up 18%, sexual offences as a whole up 11%, 23% increase in the discharge of lethal barrelled guns, so which is technical jargon there, but we all know what that means. But of course, if you listen to the Tories, it's got nothing to do with the fact that they've drastically reduced police budgets and numbers. There's got to be a whole host of other reasons. Apparently, they can't identify what they are, but it's definitely not their fault.
Guys, jump in with your comments. What do you want to see done on crime? I think for a year-on-year increase, 44% increase in homicides in London is frightening, frankly, and it makes me, it makes me laugh a bit actually when you see some journalists sort of try and play this down. These numbers are horrific. Robbery up 36% as well in London. Knife crime up 21% as well in London. And as I said, homicide, recorded rape up 18%. Sexual offences up 11%. This is across the board, guys. Absolutely horrendous. As I said, 36% increase in robbery. Burglary of homes and businesses up by 11%. This is the reality of what's going on in London. Now, I'm afraid it's a combination of cuts to policing and a London mayor in Sadiq Khan. And I know, guys, let me know what you think about the chap's performance. But, he's like the invisible man, isn't he? He's not been down. We've seen knife crime after knife crime, young lives being lost. Where is the leadership in London to solve this? Has he gone down and spoken to the families? He said that he hadn't. Has he gone to, how many of these scenes has he gone to go and deal with the reality on the ground? We need political leadership to deal with crime, and I think, guys, it's time to build more prisons, to dish out far harsher sentences, and to do with the Butlin-style holiday camps where you've got lads jumping around, filming themselves with drugs, with food, with TVs, and all the rest of it. That is not a deterrent. That is not a deterrent. We need to crack down on law and order.
Well, your comments are echoing what Michael's just said there. Alexander Smith, who's a regular on the show. Alexander, thank you very much as always. Khan is very good at virtue signalling, but not very good at keeping the capital safe. It's very difficult to disagree with that, actually, unfortunately, just given all the facts. Andrew Harrison saying, when you asked about what they think about Sadiq Khan, he's saying, yes, but the only reduction in crime will happen after we get rid of Khan. Now, at the top of the show, just before we ran a poll, obviously, as we started doing now here at Westminster, we want to get your views. The poll suggested, as you can see on your screens there, Should we have tougher sentences for criminals? And also, I think that ties in as well. We're talking about should we build more prisons? It's pretty overwhelming so far. Please keep voting though if you can. 197 of you think yes. One solitary Westmonster thinks that no, we shouldn't. Now, my take on this, I'm intrigued to see what you guys make of it, is if you build more prisons, then you obviously have more facility to put away these criminals, and that also allows you to then dish out longer sentences for your violent criminals, which would act then presumably as a deterrent. Because at the minute as well, if you get sentenced to say 5 years in prison for a knife offence, when realistically I think a lot of people think that should be maybe doubled at least, you actually then only serve 2.5 years, don't you? So actually, if you built more prisons, would you or would you not then be able to sentence people for longer and keep them in for longer? Presumably that seems to be the common sense argument there, I would think. But what do you guys reckon?
What I love about this show, guys, what I love about what we do here, what I love about you guys that watch is you dive in and you tell us things and you get involved. And Mark Forrest here on Facebook with a great little comment digging out a stat for us. Cheshire's crime has risen by 36% according to the local news. And I mean, that's something that we emphasise, guys. We're not a sort of a London-centric media bubble. We realise this isn't, although you're seeing a lot of attacks in London, this is a nationwide problem. We've seen, stabbings and also shootings in places like Luton, for instance. I think, and the stats show it, that violent crime is going up right across the country. But dive in your comments, guys, and let us know what you think. We're just going to move on to the next subject now, I think. We want to keep this fast, unless you've got something.
Well, no, the only thing I was going to add is that actually I did an interview with the head of the Prison Officers Association. I think he's worthy of a mention. The chap, I got on with him quite well. He spoke to me off the record, but obviously everything's fine there. So he's basically just said, look, we're in a situation where cuts. The prisoners basically run the prisons now. And this is why you do see things like, as Michael rightly alluded to, prisoners on the mobile phones. They can smoke weed in prison, they can get the drugs in prison, they even get prison officers sometimes bringing them Mackies and McDonald's and things like that. The prison service, should be a deterrent, not a place where if you are a career criminal you go and meet up with your mates and basically like a social networking environment for prisons where even you might even learn a thing or two. It's not. I think we've gone badly wrong here, and we are planning on doing a bit more with the prison service as well, just to outline what some of the key issues are. But it's obviously not working at the minute. And it's something that I think would be solved quite easily by putting a bit of funding into it and having more prisons.
Guy, give us a retweet, give us a like if you support the show. If you like what we're doing here, do support us, do help spread the word. We're going to go to a few comments now.
Just a few before we move on. Roy Colden saying, carry a knife, you should get 20 years. Tina Gallagher, longer sentences and not put them with their friends. And Albury Streets are just echoing what we said there. The problem is there are not enough prisons. Guys, just quickly before Michael moves on, is if you do like what you're seeing here at Westmonster and you do like the fact we're highlighting things that mainstream media won't do, then please do donate to us. Westmonster.com/support. Every little helps, as Tesco says.
Absolutely. Thanks for your support, guys. We're just going to move on now to Brexit. Very, very interesting. Look, as ever, we like to keep you up to date with everything that's going on. Now, you may have heard the Labour Party talk about the customs union and try and keep up this utter fantasy that they're going to have some sort of customs union where the UK has a degree of control. Well, to that, because the EU's Michel Barnier has come out and he has spelt it out once again, saying we can't change our rules will remain the same. When you're in a customs union for goods like Turkey, for example, you become part of a common trade policy. You don't have the autonomy anymore. I mean, I don't know what Keir Starmer's smoking. He seems to think that there's this mystical policy whereby Labour stay in a customs union, have control and all the rest of it. It's a complete load of baloney. And please, guys, when you hear politicians talk about the customs union, just remember, these little Europeans, they don't want the UK to be able to negotiate global trade deals. They want to retreat into the European Union's bosom. They want Juncker and his mates to represent us on the world stage. They don't want to have these new, exciting, dynamic deals. I don't know what's wrong with them, guys. I think they need a rocket up them. That's why they lost the referendum. But look, that's what it means. Custom union, it stops you from these exciting opportunities. And I think it spells out there. EU's Michel Barnier says that's the Labour's proposal. Basically status quo.
Yeah, stupid. And I think one thing that is an absolute fact is that the news agenda moves very quickly, and one of the reasons why politicians get away with a lot of the time is because something that seems a massive scandal on Monday is forgotten by Wednesday, right? Now, we need to put this into a bit of context. Labour has changed its position on the customs union, on single market, on Brexit, more times than I can care to remember. As it currently stands, they seem to be in favour of some kind of customs union deal. Now, I would make the point, as I have done until I've been blue in the face before, is that realistically they are doing this because they see it as a way of bringing down the Tory government. Their policy at the minute, the government's policy, is obviously to leave the customs union. If Labour manage to force through some kind of vote that blocks them from doing that, creates a constitutional crisis. You see a general election. We've been here before, right? We know that. The reality of the situation is that if you voted for Brexit, and anyone that voted for Brexit, as I actually believe Jeremy Corbyn probably did, given his track record in Parliament, if you are in the customs union, well then the fact is, as Michel Barnier has just said, you can't then go and start negotiating free trade deals with the countries. You don't get a massive say in what trade deals the EU itself enacts. How's that beneficial? How's that Brexit? And I think realistically, it's not Brexit. And from that position, it's a very short step then to actually getting back in the single market. And eventually in 10 or 15 years' time, we maybe have another referendum and we just rejoin the EU. And I think most people would see that as a betrayal, but let me know what you think, I suppose.
And now we're just going to move, before we go to some of your comments on Brexit, guys, and the Customs Union, we're going to move on to everyone's least favourite Home Secretary. It's Ramona Rudd, you know, on the ropes, getting battered from all angles, completely incompetent. Basically, she was talking to journalists yesterday at the Press Gallery lunch and was asked about, will the UK definitely leave the EU's Customs Union? By the way, guys, our website, you can see it there. Do go and visit westmonster.com. Do sign up to our Red Alert email there. And do support us if you like what we say and you want to support us, basically. Yeah, but Amber Rudd basically asked, will the UK definitely leave the EU's Customs Union? I mean, that's what Theresa May has said. That's what the government have said. And she said, I'm afraid I'm not going to be drawn on that. Which, you know, just exposes once again
really reassuring.
this constant Ramona rabble inside the government doing everything they can to water down. You know, I think there's a dead cat syndrome to this as well. She's trying to distract from her own shortcomings. She's getting battered over the Windrush scandal and all the rest of it. Completely incompetent, as I said. And I think, you know, surely it is time for Theresa May to show some leadership, kick her to the curb and get a solid Brexiteer in as Home Secretary.
I think just because we're going to dwell on this for the next maybe 5 or so minutes, maybe a bit less, but just for now, just piling with your comments just very quickly, do you or do you not think Amber Rudd should resign or be sacked? It's intriguing to know what you guys think.
Are you a Rudd fan?
The thing with this is, and I think it's the reason why this shouldn't be overlooked in this comment of won't be drawn on it, is that actually there's not a lot to be drawn on. You know, the government's got a policy. She is in the cabinet, and the government's policy is that you won't remain in the customs union. So her answer, as politicians always do, even when you can tell that they don't really mean it, is they just say, well, what is the government's line? And they say it. So it's actually quite significant that she's not just said the few words, our policy is to leave the customs union. She said, I won't be drawn on it. And that really, the implication there is that there's clearly some indecision there. There's clearly some element of disharmony in the cabinet, obviously. And she feels free enough, presumably that's come from the top as well, which indicates that she knows her leader's not exactly convinced by it. She feels free enough to not openly say, yes, we will be leaving the customs union. And that should be a big worry, I think, to Brexiteers. It's an odd statement from Amber Rudd, really.
Yeah, well, your comments are flying in, guys. I'm just going to go through a few of them now. We've got
Rudd
off, says Kerry. David saying she should be sacked ASAP. Alexander Smith says show Rudd the door.
Stuart Wilson.
Solid little suggestion there, my old son.
Moggus, home sack. Moggy.
Guys, what's the feeling? Do you want Mogg as Home Secretary? Is the Mogmentum real? Are you behind Jacob Rees-Mogg? We know a lot of you guys have a lot of love for him, so let us know. And just finally on this, we did a story this morning as well, Patrick, on the idea that Theresa May is going to go for this sort of lame customs partnership as some sort of pathetic cop-out last minute. And Cabinet Brexiteers apparently put the pressure on.
Well, this is kind of like peak British politics, isn't it? Where you go, look, there's a phrase here, customs union. They go, look, people aren't going to swallow this. People aren't going to do it. So let's just call it something else and that'll be fine. No, but that is what happens. And, you know, that is a bit of what politics is about, to be fair. But, I mean, it's pretty clear in this case. The idea that we are definitely, and she'll say this, I've been very clear. That's her favourite phrase.
Yeah, here we go.
It's her favourite phrase. I've been very clear on this. We will be leaving the customs union or a customs union, all right? But then she'll go I never said we weren't going to be in a customs partnership. Right, and you go, well, what?
Always read the small print.
Well, what is a customs partnership? Oh, it's exactly the same as being in a customs union, is it? Right, okay. So, but look, this is something that clearly would be unpalatable to senior Brexiteers in Cabinet. We had Daniel Kawczynski MP on earlier as well, MP with a cracking pedigree. He's just said, look, the senior Brexiteers in Cabinet, your Goes, your Foxes, your Bojos, would have no choice but to resign, wouldn't they, if there was some kind of customs union pushback. And it does look as though that they are now about to ramp up the pressure on them, led by Boris Johnson. It seems that Fox and David Davis are pushing for what's called for a maximum facilitation option, so no customs union, but a kind of technological border checks program that actually just seems to make a bit of common sense.
Lots of comments jumping in now on Mog, as predicted. It always happens. I think the pick of the bunch has got to be Kane. Moggy, yes. I mean, you're all over, ain't you? You're absolutely loving it.
Ian Gillan doesn't want him as Home Sec, he wants him as Prime Minister. Oh. So there you go. So, and then another one as well, which is interesting, he said Mick Chapman, Mog, intelligence has no place in government. Lol, which is interesting, isn't it? He's obviously not. At the same, Mog's got this brilliant characteristic. Sorry, it's diverse line, but Mog's got this brilliant characteristic of being arguably the most stereotypical Tory that's ever walked the face of the earth in a lot of senses, and just given who he is and everything, whilst being very anti-establishment at the same time. He's got this brilliant characteristic of being like unashamedly posh but very popular. You know?
Well, people love authenticity, don't they? I think that's why he's getting a lot of his support. We're just going to move on to now, just as a reminder of why taking back control of borders is so damn important, Patrick. This story today, on the housing crisis, and guys, it really winds me up. How many times do we hear about the housing crisis and they don't mention the fact that the UK's population just went up by 538,000 in 1 year. It's the biggest rise for 70 years, and 62% of it is because of net migration. It's ignored every single time we see a report on the housing crisis. But Patrick, these new figures really do lay out why we have to control migration, and crucially why we have to bring net migration down to the tens of thousands, which of course is the government's stated policy anyway.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? The Office for National Statistics, easy for me to say, have basically published data that show that now the average new build home, bear in mind most of the new builds are supposed to be affordable, the average new build home now costs 9.7 times the average annual salary, which is obviously makes it incredibly difficult to even get a mortgage, for example. So they've also said that full-time workers can expect to pay around 7.8 times their annual workplace-based earnings on purchasing a home in England and Wales. That's gone up 2.4% since 2016, which is a massive. When you talk about the volumes of money you're talking about buying a house, that's a sharp increase. Now, everyone talks about the housing crisis, don't they? And so they see it as this like mythical beast. There are reasons behind this, and the government has, the government has come out and said this. This is not us saying it. It's not me saying it like because I've got an argument and I want to buy. The government has come out and said that mass migration has bumped up the housing costs by 21%. And I think the reality of the situation is it's not rocket science. It's like a similar thing that we talk about with regards to NHS waiting times or the education system being in crisis. It's a little bit, if you massively increase the number of people that are living in a country and massively increase the number of people that want a house, it does mean that people can start charging whatever they like, estate agents, property owners, for the price of the house, which basically prices out a load of people. And I think this is a concern. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, because a lot of European countries, renting has always been the culture, actually. In Britain, it's not. Home ownership is something that I think people try to build a life on almost, and we are obviously now really not being able to do it, especially people my age. It's a pipe dream almost. And I think that's bad. It limits your aspiration, doesn't it?
Yeah, some very good comments on this. We've got new Joel, and guys, keep your comments coming in. If you like what you see, give us a retweet, give us a like. It really does help us out. And please go to westmonster.com/support. We really do appreciate your support. Lots of you supporting us. But if you like what we do here at Westminster, do support us. New Joel saying 62%? They've kept that stat well hidden. Well, that's the ONS figures. We seem to be the only people that ever actually talk about the fact. And we're at a historic rise in population growth. As I say, ONS figures, it's 500. You can go and check this out. Go and Google it. We did it as a story. Yeah. 538,000 annual UK population growth. The biggest for 70 years. 62% from net migration. Those are the facts. Those are the figures. No one discusses it. No one wants to sort of confront the facts on this. That when you talk about NHS, there's a rise in demand for the NHS. There's a rise in demand for housing. School places, there's quite high demand. Well, yeah, that's what happens when you run a migration system that sees your population in the UK go up by over 500,000 people each year. It's stupid, it's irresponsible, and it's damaging people's quality of life.
I think there's two ways to deal with that. You either accept that and go along with the current level of migration, but then build enough houses you physically can't, as it turns out. I mean, this is the point, is that you either have this current situation with regards to the massive rise in population every single year, and you make decisions that can help your infrastructure deal with that. So you build the right number of houses, you build the right number of hospitals, you expand schools. Right, well, if we're not doing those things, then the solution to that problem surely must be to reduce the population surge, to reduce the number of migrants coming in, because there's no other way of dealing with that. And at the minute, and for years, we've been in a situation where mass migration has carried on unabated, and we've made no massive radical updates to our infrastructure. So you see this thing brewing, which is where we are now, and where are we going to be in 10 years' time? Is the thing. So yes, interesting times.
Now stay where we are, guys. We've got lots more coming on Trump. You may have seen. We're going to leave you a smile on your face with some good Brexit news. So hang on in there. We're just going to go to a few comments now. Alexander saying, when my parents moved into the family home in the 70s, it cost them £7,000. Now houses on our street sell for around 250,000. What a jump! I mean, yeah, lots of you guys saying about foreign investors, hands off the green belt. The fact is, guys, under the current system, you can't plan, number one, because you have no idea how many people are going to come into the country every year. But we must not see any sellout when it comes to border controls, because we desperately need to get a grip on population growth in this country. We desperately need to bring net migration down to sensible levels so that we have skilled workers, we have people that we need for our economy, but that we don't have a mass oversupply of unskilled labour that is burdening our public services, our housing stock, and everything else. That, I think, is ultimately what people voted Leave for.
Well, Alison Stubbs, another regular on the show, thank you as ever, Alison, just saying, who can afford these new houses? You hit the nail on the head here, really. Who can afford these new houses? And this is the thing, is that, you know, it is... Right, so when you are building these new houses, which already isn't enough to keep up with demand, and then you price out the people that are maybe most in need of houses from doing... Who buys them? Who, you know, realistically, with the whole system from top to bottom here, it does need a massive shake-up, really. And as I will say, again, is we are sleepwalking into a position. I would ask you all to maybe just think about, well, if this is the situation now, where are we in 10 years' time? You know, realistically, where are we? When the population is at something like 70 million, for example, and the housing market hasn't caught up with that. I mean, if you think it's bad now, where are people going to be living in 10 years' time? Okay?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Look, guys, we're going to move on now to North Korea and South Korea. You may have seen the coverage. We've done it on the website. You can, of course, go over to westminster.com to go and see it. North Korea and South Korea agreed to complete denuclearization.
Massive.
And, I mean, this is absolutely huge. And the thing that gets me about it, I think we've got some images, guys, if you didn't see it, of Kim Jong-un walking around. There we are. Very historic.
Can't miss him.
With the South you can't, can you? With the, I think it's with the South Korean president there. I mean, this is truly historic. And the thing that gets me about it is, you'll remember, weren't you? You were told that Donald Trump was going to mean World War III, that Donald Trump was going to mean a less safe world, that Donald Trump was going to mean this, that Donald Trump was going to mean that. And there you go. That is Trump diplomacy. That is what you get. That is what you get. I contest when you carry a big stick. And for too long now, the West hasn't dealt with some of these problems, like a very, very volatile, nutty state like North Korea developing nuclear weapons. It's kind of not had any real robust response to it. And you remember Donald Trump, he's taken it head on. Rocket Man, Fire and Fury, all the rest of it. And you had all those commentators and all those so-called experts say, oh, this is dangerous, you mustn't do it. Those are the results of Donald Trump having the bottle to see this out and to show North Korea that he's not playing around, and it's brought peace. And again, I say, think about all the people that told you Donald Trump's going to mean World War III, Donald Trump's going to mean war. No, peace is the result so far of Trump diplomacy.
It certainly looks like it's going that way. It's got a little way to go, but obviously,
How are you to doubt Donald Trump?
It does look that way. Absolutely. Well, look, Leslie White has gone. Look, you're right here, Leslie, saying it all looks positive in the north of South Korea, and it sounds too. Well, she's gone. It sounds too good to be true. I think it actually does look relatively solid at the minute. I mean, obviously anything can happen, but it is interesting, isn't it? The fact that Donald Trump, you can dislike him as much as you like, and a lot of people do, obviously. I mean, there's supposed to be about 1 million people protesting. I think we're going to come on to when he comes. But the reality of the situation is, and I will ask this question again, like, when you, as the leader of a nation, if you find yourself confronted with a situation where another country is actively building nuclear weapons, and there's no dispute about that, and then they are openly saying they are going to fire them at your country when they've built them, what do you want your country's leader to do? Like, I mean, do you want him to just go, let him finish? Like, I mean, I find this a bit odd. They go, oh, Trump's been a bit bullish about North Korea. I mean, do you not want your leader to be a bit bullish if another country's gone, I'm going to nuke you? I mean, I think it's a bit odd. What's the alternative to that? I find that a bit bonkers.
And so, and guys, you don't have to take it for our word that Trump's the sort of architect of all of this developments. Let's have a look at what the South Korean foreign minister has actually said. I think we've got the clip for you in a second. We'll play the clip.
Are you surprised by how quickly this moment has arrived? I mean, let's face it, just 4 months ago, Kim Jong-un was talking about pressing nuclear buttons from his desk, and President Trump was responding in kind.
I think we're all surprised, obviously pleasantly surprised. I think by all indications we are headed towards a very successful summit between my president and Chairman Kim tomorrow. We've just had the list of his delegation coming, a very, a big delegation with all responsible individuals. So I think, yes, as I keep telling my colleagues, I feel like somebody stepped on the accelerator at the beginning of the year, and it's been nonstop since then.
How do you account for it?
One, I think, clearly, credit goes to President Trump. He's been determined to come to grips with this from day one. My president also since day one, and I think the presidents Moon and Trump have worked very closely together, sometimes in complementarity, sometimes in different messaging, but the level of consultations and the confidence between the two leaders has been instrumental in bringing us to this point.
Yes, so that was Korean Foreign Minister there, Kang Kyung-hwa, saying that she credits Trump completely for bringing Kim Jong-un to heel on the nuclear weapons side of it. She said, again, as you just heard, he's been determined to come to grips with this from day one. Now, again, I would make the point of, look, Obama was a massively popular figure, and, look, I disagree with him politically on a few things, but actually I think he was, I credit what he's done, I respect what he's done as the first black president of America, etc., etc., etc. The fact is, he's just ignored the North Korean issue for however long, hasn't he? And it's let it get to a stage where it needed dealing with, didn't it? If you have got a country firing, test rockets over Japan and stuff like that, that's at the point when it becomes necessary to deal with it, and you have to ask yourself the question, do you actually have the confidence, do you genuinely believe that if Hillary Clinton had been elected, that this problem would have been dealt with? The facts that have led up before that suggest not. So really, you can dislike Donald Trump as much as you like, although I'm sure most of you don't, but, really, this is actually good, isn't it? I mean, I think he deserves a bit of respect for this.
Absolutely. And a great comment here. I really do like the comments, guys. Please do something, because we go through as many as we can. And very, very interesting whether you agree or disagree. This is a really interesting comment here from Geraldie5 on Twitter, saying, I do dislike him, but he's doing a good job. And, fair play to you, because that's becoming a rare thing. We get so many of these little, wannabe hard men on Twitter and all the rest of it mouthing off about things, don't look into the facts. And the fact is, politics should be a results-based business. This isn't about who you like as an individual. Who is going to deliver the results? Who is good for your country? Who will deliver the outcomes that is best for the world, for your families, for your neighbours, and all the rest of it? That's what it should be down to. Yeah. And it's becoming a rarer thing, actually, isn't it? As I say, I think a lot of people that oppose Donald Trump don't like him as an individual. Yeah. And then I've had some of them, there's a few smarmy, as a BBC journalist, who's sort of, well, this isn't going to lead to anything. It's like, well, come on, if Obama had done this, you'd be saying he'd get the Nobel Peace Prize, wouldn't you? Yeah. And it's a complete hypocrisy and just delusional. It's not that on a personal level, it's not that I don't understand why some people don't like Donald Trump on a personal level. I mean, personally, I like to think I'm a bit more open-minded. It's not necessarily judge a book by his cover. But as the whole alpha male thing and brash, everything that we know Donald Trump to be, I can understand how that rubs up some people the wrong way. I mean, that's it. But the reality is, you should be big enough or intelligent enough to accept when someone like that does something and gets results. So you should be able to take your hat off and go, well, I still disagree with you about that border war, but you have done a cracking work on the Korean Peninsula. That's it. And I think as well, there's been a big misunderstanding here with the Democrats and a lot of the left wing about how international relations work. We think that our traditional style of diplomacy, which tends to be very polite and slow, works. Actually, your leaders like your Kim Jong-uns or your Putins, do they or do they not respond well to your traditional Western diplomacy? Or do they like the kind of carrot and stick approach? That is the very cut and dry thing. And we've seen that work here. So maybe actually he has taken the best approach to the situation. Lots of comments here on Facebook. We need a Donald in charge here. He does what he says he is going to do. And of course, lots of you pointing out, which I think is correct, that if Hillary Clinton was in charge, I mean, God knows where it would be. I mean, she may have collapsed at some stage. She may have instantly sort of seen this as her next foreign expedition. Let's start bombing them. I think it's a fantastic thing, actually. I think the world is a much safer place with Donald Trump as US president than someone like Hillary Clinton.
I mean,
think that's the trick.
realistically, ask yourselves this: would we or would we not have seen Kim Jong-un walk hand in hand with the South Korean leaders today over the demilitarized zone had Donald Trump not been in charge? I think that's an interesting question people should ask themselves. I think that's an interesting question people on the left and Trump detractors should ask themselves. Again, I emphasise you can disagree with them on anything that you like, and that is your right as a human being. But be realistic about this situation. Would we have seen the position we're in today? You know, it's still a bit of a way to go before it's all signed off and sorted. It looks like it's going well, but would we have seen it without Donald Trump? Probably not.
Now, we're going to leave you with a smile on your face, guys. And before we go, just one more plug. Do go to westmonster.com/support if you like what we do, if we back what we say, and if you want to support us. But we're going to leave you with a cheeky little smile on your face now. Patrick, cracking story. You probably heard some of the garbage coming out from those moody Ramonas. They're like Kevin the moody teenager, aren't they? Sort of moaning. It's Brexit's. They said a leave vote. Don't forget, they said a leave vote was going to be disastrous, and it hasn't been. Now they're saying Brexit's going to be disastrous, and it won't be. But one of their favourite things to say is, well, number one, there aren't any trade deals, which we of course know there are. And the second, oh, well, the trade deals are going to be crap anyway, and you're going to be forced to eat all sorts of different meats that come in. Another dose of reality here. Like to keep it reality-based, of course, here at westmonster.com. Yeah. Another dose of reality here from the Australian High Commissioner.
Yeah, well, I subscribe to the view that if everybody was Australian, the world would be a much better place. But Alexander Downer, who's a Eurosceptic, who's the outgoing High Commissioner for Australia, has basically just said, look, he's poured scorn over the idea that some kind of free trade deal would lead to us eating a lower quality of beef, which does sound already like a bit of a ridiculous argument from the Ramonas there. But he's just said, look, for a free trade agreement with the UK, food safety issues are unlikely to be an issue at all. Why? Because our trade deal with Australia is not going to be based on beef. Shock, horror. That's what he said in a nutshell. The other thing here, and important to know, is when people do go, where are the trade deals? The Australians have literally offered us to sign a trade deal on the day that the transition period ends. So, I mean...
Get in there!
Like, there is that. The Aussies are great people, obviously, as we all know. They make any party better, don't they? And they also make the world better in this case. But some good Brexit news there, basically, for you.
So there you go, guys. Thanks very much for joining us again. As I say, if you do support what we do give us a retweet, do give us a like, do go to westmonster.com/support. Remember to go to westmonster.com for all the latest news and more. Like our page, get involved, like us on Twitter as well, of course. Follow us on Twitter. And we will see you. I hope you have a lovely weekend.
Yes.
What are you up to with the weekend, Patrick? Anything?
I'm running a half marathon on Sunday.
Boom.
So, yes, we'll see how that goes.
Which is a half marathon more than I'll ever run, but there you go.
There you go. There you go.
But look, guys, we'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. 1 o'clock on Monday. See you there.
Take care, guys.